Better than everybody else. I said it. Insiders, hosts, former players, analysts, everyone came together for Back Together Saturday. So we had boots on the ground all over the place. And, of course, in Oxnard, California for Cowboys camp, our very own Michael Irvin and Chris Rose caught up with the man in charge, Jerry Jones, asking him about facing the defending champs. That happens, by the way, ooh, baby, week 1.
How excited are you for that opening night Thursday down in Tampa against the defending Super Bowl champions and Tom Brady? Just on a personal level for you.
Well, we're going to have a lot of prayer so that we can get the courage to show up. Let me tell you this. World champion, Tom Brady, Tampa, great atmosphere. What a better opportunity to step up there and be David against Goliath.
I love everything about that clip. Excellent work by Michael Irvin, Chris Rose, Jane Slater, also part of that out there in Oxnard. So according to owner, president, and GM down in Dallas, the Cowboys are David and the Buccaneers are Goliath. It's very interesting to see, America's team. I don't think he ever considers them the underdog. It's interesting to see him undersell his squad for really the first time I've ever heard anything like that come out of Mr. Jerry Jones's mouth. So
humility, huh?
Yeah, a little, or just cheeky. I like it. Whatever he's doing, I'm very much into it. We know he really wants a championship. He wants to show up, and this team is loaded on both sides. Last week, I made the case that I don't want to see these Cowboys in the same conversation as the Buccaneers and Packers in the NFC. They've got something to prove. So how wide is that gap really between the Cowboys and the Buccaneers?
I love that after all these years that Mr. Jones is still, I think the expression is full of it, because, I mean, that was great. We're just this tiny little scrappy David up against the mighty Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's like, Jeff Bezos comes out and says, we've got this little startup mom and pop store that we're doing. No, you're the Dallas Cowboys. You're not David with a smooth stone and a sling. It's a hilarious bit of, I think, false humility. And just wait until the Cowboys flip the table and win that game. Then we'll see how David is. Here's the gap, though. There is a significant gap, and it is the absolute monsters or Goliaths that are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pass rush. And we're going to talk about this game a lot, of course, because it's the opener. But I'm still thinking about Patrick Mahomes running for his life away from JPP and Sue and Devin White. Offensive line be damned. That's fine. I just think it's an interesting contrast that we haven't seen Dak Prescott since he had that terrible broken leg. And his welcome back is these Wolverines up front that the Buccaneers release. This is the gap. I don't know if Dallas brings this kind of heat defensively. We're hearing a lot of stuff about Micah Parsons in camp, and he's the real deal. We'll see. I know these guys are. Dallas can score with anybody. Dallas can score with the Globetrotters, I think. I just don't know, as we see Rodgers get torn down by 26 Buccaneers, if the Cowboys have this kind of firepower defensively. That's the only thing that makes them Goliath in this one.
Did you just call a week 1 upset, or are you just kind of putting that on the table and letting it marinate?
I hope for it. I like the bedlam, Mike. So I'll just say it right now, I'm openly rooting for the Cowboys in that one, just because it'd be crazy.
And I will check back Thursday of opening week to see what Kyle eventually predicts here. But look, I mean, it's a team that can protect well. They've got a really good quarterback that's going to keep them in a lot of games, just like he did early last season, even when they fell out of games early on. I've got a defense that can create some havoc up front. I've got some guys that can cover. I've got a pretty good coaching staff. I've also got a defense here with, yes, you've got film on Dan Quinn, and yes, you've got film on the Cowboys players, but you're not going to have film of it all together. So the Buccaneers are going to have to guess to try to fill in some gaps here. So I think Jerry's just playing possum on this one, and I think he wants to get them, he wants to pump them up, wants to get the Buccaneers to be kind of full of themselves, which is probably not what they're going to be, right? Tom Brady has been in this position again, and he's preaching to those guys what it's going to be like to be the hunted, so he's going to have them mentally prepared for it. But I keep thinking about this opening game, and the only scenario that I can't come up with is the Buccaneers absolutely running the Cowboys off the field that night. I think it's going to be closely contested, and I think it's going to be a really good game.
It might be closely contested, and it might be a really good game, but this isn't a question of how close these guys are competing or in the do they parallel the Buccaneers? No. Like, I'm not trying to take a shot at the Cowboys, but how wide is the gap? It's Michael Strahan gap.
It's a big gap.
It's the Grand Canyon wide. Like that's how big this gap is. The Cowboys have been good every single season on paper. So until they start winning games, so they prove to be one of the best teams in the NFL, we cannot compare them to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I didn't wake up Monday morning and take a shot at the Cowboys, but as much as we may think Jerry Jones is being cheeky, or if he's doing a little reverse psychology.
He's also right.
No, he's 100% right. He knows that his Cowboys have not fulfilled expectations over the last decade plus. So the gap isn't close. You know, I wish I could wake up in the morning and say, the Cowboys are just as good as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's unrealistic for me to say. Until they prove to be a team that can take what they have on paper and apply it to the field, then yeah, this gap is as wide as everything I've seen.
Over the last 5 years, the Jaguars, the Falcons, the Texans, the Vikings all have more playoff wins than this Cowboys squad. So how do you close that gap? And not like April Fools, Michael Strahan goes to the cosmetic dentist, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. What would it take? Would it take a brilliant upset win week 1 to sort of put them in that conversation for the next year? Does it take a division win? Does it take an NFC championship appearance? How did they get in that? It's really the Packers, the Buccaneers. Are they in the same place as the Niners right now? The Niners went to a Super Bowl. So no, they're behind the Niners.
We wake up the week of the postseason, and the Cowboys are coming off a good year. Not a year where they stumble into the playoffs or they get the backdoor invite to the playoffs. They earn their right into the playoffs, and they're one of the best teams in football. That's how you close that gap.
Yeah.
Like you can't stumble into the postseason and then we assume that they're one of the best teams in the NFL. So they're going to have to earn it week by week. I don't even care if they win the game in the regular season.
Okay.
I want to see what they do in the postseason.
Really? Because, look, I think this Cowboys team's got to win 12 games this year. I mean, they really should. You don't get an easier division. And no division is easy, don't get me wrong. But just the quarterback situation they're going against, the other coaches they're going against, unproven, untested. You're loaded, you're talented, you're healthy. Like, we talk a lot about it's been 26 years since they've been to a title game. I can't remember a year, maybe in 1 or 2 of the Romo teams, where it's just been set up that well. And even those Romo teams, they'd have to go against really good Andy Reid Eagles teams. They were always. I don't see that in the East. I don't see anything that you can't beat. It's their show, and that's almost kind of scary if you're a Cowboys fan. Like, I feel like they have everything to lose this year in a sense because they are the proverbial favorite. Someone can ride with Washington if you want. I think Cowboys are the proverbial favorite, and they got a lot to live up to.
You close that gap by, and this goes back to where we started with that Jerry bite, and I understand that it was tongue-in-cheek, but he wouldn't even entertain that thought of us as the underdog. No, you're the big, bad Cowboys. You are the big star. You've got the biggest stadium. Everything's bigger in Texas, Kyle.
No.
Have you been paying attention? I mean, come on. Come out with an attitude that says we are the Cowboys. We're going to show up, and we're going to play like we believe the brand that we put on our helmet.
What is success for the Cowboys in 2021?
Well, I think it's double-digit wins, and I think it's a postseason victory. I think it's actually getting out there and going deep into January. And
see, I think one's not enough. Dak's had it. Dak's had one. Dak's had one a couple of times. Like he's been there. Like again. It's not just they haven't been to a title game since Super Bowl since 95. They've been to a title game. And you're America's team, Lombardi's this. I mean, it was the mid-'90s since you did that. It becomes a joke after a while. So sometimes you got to get to that title game at least.
It's also offensive to teams like the teams in the NFC West, the Rams, the Seahawks, of course. There's a contender. All those teams have been there. The Niners have been there, so you can't put them above those and compare them to the teams who are, the one that coming off a Super Bowl with Tom Brady that's loaded coming back until they prove something. Not